AITAH for throwing my rings in the ocean after my husband told me he had an affair, even though it was a prank. Story 1. This is the dumbest thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. This past Sunday, my husband and I, M29 and F27, were on our boat together. We were just relaxing and talking and having a good morning. All of a sudden, my husband gets really serious and tells me, "Baby, I'm so sorry, but I have to tell you something. I'm so sorry, please forgive me, I had an affair." For context, my husband thinks he's a comedian. He says dumb shit all the time, but he's never joked about our marriage or relationship or cheating, ever. The way he said it, I fully believed him. I was blinded by rage and hurt, and I'm not a confrontational person at all, so all I did was stand up, take my rings off, and throw them into the ocean. I don't even know why I did it. It was just the first thing I thought of doing. My husband's jaw hit the floor. He immediately started to yell at me that it was a joke, a prank. He wasn't serious and I was an IIOT. My jaw dropped then too. I yelled at him too and called him the same. I cried too, realizing I just threw my lovely and sentimental rings into the ocean. We've been arguing for days. He says I'm Ty, I say he's the TA, and I have no idea who's right. Yes, admittedly, I threw about 10K worth of rings into the ocean, and we will never find them again, but he looked me in my eyes and told me he had an affair. I am upset about my rings. I've apologized for throwing them, but I just don't feel like Tay. Our advice. Your reaction to your husband's prank was a result of the deep hurt and betrayal you felt upon hearing about an affair, even if it was meant as a joke. While throwing your rings into the ocean may have been impulsive and regrettable, it was a visceral response to the emotional turmoil you experienced. Both of you are grappling with the aftermath of this incident, but it's essential to communicate openly about your feelings and the impact of his actions. Consider seeking counseling to navigate this challenging situation and establish clearer boundaries in your relationship moving forward. First comment, there have been many stories on Reddit where the ops have described immediately falling out of love with their partner once they find out about their cheating. They all describe it as if every feeling and emotion just shuts off, most likely shock. They describing going through the motions to move forward almost like a zombie. It is only when the papers are served and their stuff is moved out that they break down for the life they lost with the person they thought they knew. Ops' reaction was pure shock, hurt, and anger at such a betrayal. It seems like a very common and perfect reaction. NTA. But I believe, like the commenter above, that it was not a joke or a prank. The husband was testing the waters to see how Op would react to his cheating. Op should be taking some time to look at her husband's credit card use and his phone usage. Does he work a lot of overtime? Op's husband either just gave her the biggest red flag that he is F-king around, or he, like so many of these IIOT pranksters, just caused major harm. In this case, he damaged his relationship with Op and continues to do so by doubling down. Second comment. 8. Your TA. You know your husband is a jokester and does stuff like this, so to jump to this reaction without verifying that he is serious is a mistake on your part. At least if you had announced you were going to do it, he could have stopped you and told you the truth. But there was no comment, question, or discussion, simply a reaction of you dumping the rings in the ocean. He is also TA for pulling a dumb prank and probably thought your reaction wouldn't be so extreme. All in all, both of you did stupid things, and if he wanted a reaction from you, he got it. He underestimated your reaction. TBH, even if he did have an affair, it's a crazy immature move to throw the rings in the ocean. I mean, that stuff looks cool and dramatic in the movies, but in real life? You save it forever or sell it later. Throwing valuables in the ocean just to prove a point for a moment is crazy. That's probably why he thinks you're ta. Regardless of what someone tells you, you have to show some self-control. Story 2. AITAH for bailing out the man my husband fought instead of my husband? Last week, 2 police officers knocked on my door to inform me that my husband O was in jail for getting into a fight with another man, B, over a young woman, C. My husband and C were having an affair. It seems that B caught them and my husband decided to fight him. I didn't want to see my husband at that time. We had always been a happily married couple. Furthermore, he was never a fighter. I don't know who this man is. I did visit B to find out what happened. He told me that C was acting suspiciously and he found out she was cheating. He knew my husband was married because of their texts. He caught them in the act and threatened to tell me. It was a bluff because he didn't actually know. My husband decided to physically fight B to get the phone. The neighbors ended up calling the police and both of them got arrested. B seemed like a sweet, earnest young man. I can't believe my husband hurt the poor thing. He didn't have any criminal history. He had a lower bond than my husband. He didn't have the money or any family to help him. I decided to bail him out instead. Eventually, my mill bailed out my husband. They've all been upset that I bailed out the other man instead of my husband. My husband has pleaded for my forgiveness. He says it's not a physical affair, but an emotional one. I'm trying to figure out if it's something that can be forgiven. Apparently B was very manipulative and can put on an innocent face. My husband says he doesn't blame me for being manipulated but said I shouldn't have done it. I feel that is condescending. Was I the for bailing out B? Our advice. Navigating such a complex and emotionally charged situation is undoubtedly challenging. It's understandable that you were taken aback by the news and needed time to process your feelings. Ultimately, your decision to bail out the other man instead of your husband was driven by compassion and a desire to help someone who seemed to be in a vulnerable position. However, it's important to recognize the implications of your actions and the impact they may have had on your husband and your relationship. While it's commendable to show empathy towards someone in need, your husband is undoubtedly going through a difficult time as well, and your support could have been crucial for him during this ordeal. Moving forward, it's essential to have open and honest communication with your husband. Discuss your feelings, concerns, and boundaries, and work together to address the underlying issues in your relationship. Consider seeking couples therapy to navigate the complexities of infidelity and rebuild trust and intimacy. Ultimately, whether or not forgiveness is possible depends on the dynamics of your relationship and your individual values. Take the time you need to process your emotions and make decisions that align with your own well-being and happiness. First comment. They. Funny how he's manipulating the situation right now by calling B manipulative, hey? Honestly, he was cheating. He cheated. You didn't know this was happening. Clearly he can be manipulative. Whatever they were caught in the act doing, he got in a fight over stopping you from knowing about it. If he wasn't sleeping with her already, he was planning to do it. You only know about this affair because he went to jail. How long do you think it would have continued? How is it less bad because it was an emotional affair? How many people say it was just sex to justify cheating? I honestly don't know which heartbreak is worse, cheating because they're in love with someone else or cheating because sex means more than you do. You're really going to have to think about whether your marriage can come back from this. Can you trust him again? Do you even want to? Maybe you should speak to a therapist to help you figure out how you're feeling and where you want to go from this. Second comment. Your husband is utilizing a technique known as Darvo deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. It's the standard playbook for abusive assholes looking to get away with shit. Deny he tell you it wasn't a real affair, just an emotional affair. This is almost certainly a lie. Guys generally don't get into fistfights over emotional affairs. Attack, he goes on the offensive, attacking you for bailing out B. For reverse victim and offender, there is no sane universe where your husband should be in a position not blame you for pretty much anything at this point. He cheated on you. That should be main focus of your conflict with him. But he shifted the ground under you so that he is now the wronged party. I don't know anything about B. It's possible he is manipulative, but that actually doesn't matter. B is not an important person in your life. What matters is that your husband is extremely manipulative. He is manipulating you right now. You should take steps to protect yourself, then file for divorce.